It's on. You're on. You're on camera.
All right, now you won't talk.
All right, I'm leaving.
So you better ask him some questions about the family.
So, yeah.
All right, so ask me something.
What was it? Tell me again, after, when your family, when you were roaming around with your father.
All right, there were
With your
many-
mother.
My mother died when I was 10, and my father, we lived in Stratford area for a while. They had to give up he took in a woman to take care of us, but she tried to convince him to marry her, and he didn't want to. And, we moved on. We kept moving around from room to room in the Bronx.
Yeah.
And there were times when Mary and Jack invited me over for dinner, and I used to visit Grandpa and the daughters of Jacob home.
Yeah.
And then I stayed in your mother's and father's house for a while.
Yeah.
One summer, and that's when I babysat for your sister. And
What kind of kid was she?
I don't recall.
Is she a problem?
I'd be making up a story if I said
Make
I
it
didn't
up.
know.
Make it up. That's it.
But I don't remember. I don't think she was a pain in the neck as far as I used to sit when they went out at night.
Yeah.
And no, she was very cooperative and not very explosive for a child.
Yeah.
Maybe later on in life
She
she
was good.
changed.
Yeah.
But I ended up roaming around the Bronx. And at one time, I even shined shoes on the corner of the Bronx, Hunts Point, and I built my own box for shoe shines, and I used to have to fight off other competitors who wanted that spot. It was a very good spot. And one Saturday I went out and I made 75 cents.
That was a big deal.
Well, nickel a shine plus 2-cent tip or 3-cent tip.
That's a big
Let me
deal.
get that.
They're
I'm
all-
sorry, hold it.
They must be back, so these, from
Did it stop?
what happened.
It's the storm.
Hello?
Cried like a baby.
Oh, you're our guest and,
But we wanted to take you out.
No,
pardon
that's
me?
all right.
No, we
But
appreciate that, but,
She said the food, everything was nice. We were gonna treat last night. So now Julia says, Julia hates to take things. She says, now you don't have to do it. I said, what do you mean you don't have to do it? We're doing it. So she said it went beautifully.
all right, do you people eat Italian food?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're
Okay,
done.
good.
Every Jew
We have a
is.
very good restaurant nearby, not too far.
Italian, Jews usually like Chinese food, you know that.
I like that. You're right.
The
Those
Chinese-
are two
Yeah.
things we like, Chinese
The
food.
Chinese restaurants are closed.
Yeah.
Chinese out,
See, I know it sounds
but
good.
not pork or shrimp.
No pork.
You're
You
right.
just eat beef
No
and chicken.
pork.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
chicken
yeah.
probably.
Yeah, Julia's, Reese's the same way.
So tell me what,
She keeps the culture going.
after you were that
And
age,
she, just like you
how did
said, she
things
doesn't
settle
eat any of
down?
those fishes.
You were roaming around with your father.
Well, for 3 years, we moved from one room to another room, and as a young, kid, I didn't realize the seriousness of the situation.
You just went along with it.
Yeah, and then we ended up in one place on Vale Street in the Bronx, which wasn't too far from my father's sister. She lived around the corner on Alder Street.
What year was this?
I don't know, let's see, I was 10, so figure,
It would be 1804.
pardon me?
1804.
No,
Go on.
this is during the Declaration of the Independence.
So it was,
I used to stand on the corner and hand out copies.
What was your father doing? Was did he have a
He
job?
worked primarily in the dairy business. At one time he was driving a truck for various distributors, and there were times when he would take me out, because in those days you worked on Saturday, and he would take me out on Saturday when I was home from school, and I'd help him on a truck.
And the girls.
And he used to have some restaurants that he served, that the cooks were women, and they had pity on me. Here's a kid, 11 years, 12 years old, no mother, so they'd always strip me with food.
that's good. That was a good
So I always look forward to Saturday.
And that was about the same time you started doing art,
That what?
that you started painting.
Oh, I was drawing while I was in the rooms, in those wandering around. I had something made, a yen for sketching and drawing, and I never stopped
But I say
until
that
about 10 years ago.
if his mother had lived, she would have gone into school and fought for it, just like any
No,
woman.
not then.
Right?
Things
You
were
need a
different
mother.
then. Things were different.
You need a mother.
Well, they help. Although sometimes my mother, she dragged me around. I don't know if it was good or not. I don't know. She got me into school a half a year early or a year early. I don't know if it was made any difference.
Your mother was a very strong woman.
You noticed that?
Yes. Whatever she wanted to do, she did it, and she was always successful. And I don't think she had any failures
Yeah.
as far as what, her attempts to do things, or make arrangements, whatever she did.
But Timmy is like that.
Yeah.
But Timmy is.
I call him the Starkman.
No, but I
were
found
Stark.
her. to
They
be
were the
very
Starkers.
Sweeter. I found her to be very sweet with me. We were really.
Yeah, you went to China with them. You could tell that
We
story.
had such a good time.
And you didn't go. Ken, you didn't go to China? You didn't want to go?
Why didn't you
No,
go?
I didn't want to go because I had a little shtick about not going to a communist country. And I didn't want to spend my money there, so that's
So
why I stayed
spent
home.
his money.
So you paid, you did your own money.
I did what?
Our money.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't give her any money. She used her money. You're right. You're right.
I don't even think, yeah, I was working then.
No, you weren't working. Yeah, you were out of work. Yeah, because you had a.
What happened is I had 3 children, but before that at night I went to school. And then I went back. I said, what am I going to do now? They're in school. And I'm not one who worries about how to dress and shop and all. So I went back and I got my degrees and degrees. And I loved what I
So
did.
you taught.
I loved working. I loved the children. I got a letter from a man after 20 years. He just wrote a letter to me. And he thanked me for
A student,
Isn't that
an
sweet?
ex-student.
What?
Your next student,
I
now a
haven't.
professor.
So what did you teach?
Well, at first grade and then 2nd grade. And then I taught what I teach last.
You taught computer
No,
and science.
science.
Yeah.
And then
Elementary school.
I bought the first one in the classroom, one. They had to give us air conditioning because it wouldn't, not because we needed it, but because that needed it.
The
And then we
computer.
got a whole room of it. And then, you know how long ago? 20 years ago. You know how much has been changed since then? Think about it. Figure it out.
Oh, it's amazing. Every year,
Oh, my
every year
God.
it changes, yeah.
So they say if you don't know what to do, you call a grandchild. A
That's right.
grandchild,
Oh, they make you look foolish. They
right? They know
They-
everything.
Especially about the social networking thing. They use the social networking
Oh, yeah.
as
But
if it was just second nature.
it is.
Yeah.
I have a picture of my grandson. You'll meet him. He's getting married next. So he was about 3 years old, and he's sitting on his brother, and I brought it home on summertime, and he's sitting on his father's lap, and he's looking at the computer. And that was the beginning. They all know how to use it beautifully, amazingly,
No, they,
isn't it?
my 10-year-old communicates by
See?
email. Grandpa, where are we doing? Are we going to see you this weekend? We haven't seen you for 2 weeks.
Isn't
complains.
wonderful? Isn't that?
But I love the way they work with the cell phones.
that's
It's
incredible.
amazing. A little thing like that. If I use it, I hit 2 numbers at
They're
once.
like computers
You know,
now.
yeah.
You know what they
It's
do?
like writing.
They know just how, we'll ask my son, we can't find the address of this and this person. He says, 1 minute, this is where she lives and you can get a phone number and they know everything.
Yeah, there are software
kids know
programs to
everything.
get that.
I could tell you a very interesting story about Grandpa,
Good.
my grandfather. He lived, eventually he gave up the apartment when he had his children living with him, and he ended up in a room in a private home in the Bronx, not too far from Boynton Avenue. I forget the name of the
And
street.
then he went to the
So
other.
I lived on the other end, in the west end of the Bronx, and my stepmother would tell me, she would say, "Go visit your grandfather." And I was about 13, 14.
What year was this?
Don't ask me for years.
No, when were you born?
Well, I was 8. I was born in 1924.
34.
August
so
8th.
This is right before the Second World
Yeah,
War.
so let's see, 24,
37, 38.
14, something
Yeah,
like that.
1938.
Yeah, in the 30s, the early 30s. And she said, "Go visit your grandfather." So I went to visit him, and this is when he was living by himself, before he went into the home. And he always gave me, I remember this, a Luden's cough drop. That's what he liked the best, a Luden's cough drop.
Whether you needed it?
Whether I needed it or not, I didn't have a cough, but that's the only thing he was
That's
able to give me.
Moses. That was Moses.
Pardon me?
Moses, that grandfather. Your grandfather Moses is my grandfather.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Moses, yeah.
Moses, yeah.
But he was
Well,
very-
I'm named, I think I'm named after him. Kalman Chaim? No, I don't know who I'm named after. Either my father's father or my mother's father.
Was he religious then, the old man?
Oh, tremendously so.
Was he ever working? Did he work, or is he just davening all the time?
I don't remember.
Didn't he
He didn't work when I lived with him.
Yeah, that was the story.
Yeah,
These
but they didn't
were
even have
very
Medicare in
religious.
those days.
they're very religious.
Yeah, very extremely so. In fact, there was an episode
Yeah.
when we lived in when we all lived together with the aunts and the uncles, with Elaine, Jack, and Irving. My grandfather had a woman, a black woman, come in to take care of the house, and she stayed from morning till night, but she didn't sleep in. And one day she messed up and she used the wrong silverware, because my grandfather was ultra conservative. And I remember he gave us such a vicious argument, what she did. She didn't know any better, She probably wasn't even told.
No, yeah. Well,
And he was good at giving argument. And that's one of the situations.
I think his strong religious nature scared his sons and daughters.
That's what I said,
off
not one of them
from
kept
religion.
anything.
Right, that sort of compelled them to distance themselves from the religion completely.
Yeah.
There's some good parts. Like when my mother died, he used to take me every day to the temple, the synagogue, to say Kaddish. I remember for a whole year I was saying Kaddish, and he would take me to the temple.
But I made.
And then I remember on Saturday, I'd like to go. It was always good. I enjoyed going on Saturday because they had a kiddush after the and that's when I loved to eat the honey cake, sponge cake, herring, and all that stuff. So I made a pig of myself.
No, but I said,
That's normal.
I'm going to have a kosher home. I said, maybe you'd like to go to shul with my father on Yom Kippur. So at first you said no, and then you said yes. Right?
That's right.
He had to.
Yeah, she converted me. So then I became a good Jew, and I went to temple on all the holidays, and I kept that up until now. Well, even now we go, but it's very difficult. Every year became more increasingly difficult for us to go, and
But that doesn't stop me.
When you're in the Bronx and you're starting to settle down, when did you? Then you went into the Bronx to perform.
we were always in the Bronx. We were either in the West Bronx or the East Bronx.
But then you went to high school in the.
Well, I went to high school in the
performing
West Bronx. I went to the David Clinton High School.
Wait, what about going to special high school? You said.
Oh, music and art. I
Music
started
and art.
in 1938. Let's see, I graduated. Yeah, 1938. I entered music and art high school, and then I transferred over at the request of my lousy art teacher, and
She
I went to
kicked you
Dewey
out.
Clinton.
She didn't know.
kids-
I
have
finished Dewey
pictures.
Clinton. I graduated in 1940. Trying to remember that. 42. Yeah, 42.
What happened?
Pictures, the kids have
And then in
pictures of all
19
the
What
ones
happened with
you
the
did.
war? You were.
August 8th, I became 18. September 15th, with my parents' permission, I enlisted in the Army Air Corps. And for the duration of 6, as the expression went, and I spent 3 years in the Army, overseas.
But it was
What
in
you
the
did.
air. It was the Air Corps, which was.
I wasn't a pilot, I was ground crew.
It was
I was-
before they had
Did
the
a
Air
wonderful
Force.
thing. Look,
No,
you did
Air
a
Corps.
wonderful thing.
Now it's Air Force.
Yeah, but they changed it, right?
Yeah.
Tell them what you did.
Then I went to 2 schools in the Army, 2 radio schools, and I ended up in they called it a homing station. In other words, I was in a truck that had an antenna that stuck up, a rotational antenna, and we used to give bearings to the pilots when they, this is during the war, actually, over in Europe. Pilots would get shot up, damaged, hurt, and they had to get back in a hurry. And based on the fact they were zooming all over the place, they lost their sense of where to go. So we used to give them bearings. We'd have a rotational antenna. We were using an azimuth scale, and we saved a lot of lives.
So where were you stationed?
Pardon me?
Where were you stationed? In Europe?
Oh, we started off at Mitchell, I started at Camp Upton, then I went to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, then Madison, Wisconsin.
Nobody's getting shot down there.
No,
Nobody
I was going to schools at those places.
And then,
Then I ended up at Mitchell Field, and then we were assigned to a fighter squadron of P-47s, and we serviced them for a while. And then we went overseas to England. Then from England, our pilots were operational, and then finally we hit the beach on D-Day +6.
Tell that story.
And then we were in one of these landing crafts, the whole group of communication people, and our lieutenant was in front of us, and the ramp came down, he says, "Follow me, men," and he stepped off into the water and he disappeared. He fell into a shell hole. But he came up, but he didn't die. And
you were lucky it was D-Day +6.
yeah, I was lucky.
Nobody's
The only
shooting
thing, the only thing close to combat, I was strafed by or bombed by our own planes, P-51s, and they told us that they were planes that were captured by the Germans. And I said, I don't believe that crap. And then we were also bombed by the Germans, but we were lucky. No one was hurt. But one time,
How far did you go in? Did you
kept
go all the
going.
way?
We supported Patton. We went behind
Oh,
Patton.
so you went all the way up to...
All the way to Frankfurt. That's
To
where I ended
Frankfurt,
up.
right.
Yeah. In fact,
Did you go through Frankfurt? Frankfurt was leveled, as I...
they were all those towns. Nuremberg, all of them were bombed out completely.
Yeah.
No, we didn't go. After that, after the war ended when we were in Frankfurt, and they shipped us back to France, and they sent us to a camp. They call it Camp Detroit, where we were preparing our equipment to go to Japan. And God bless Truman, he ordered the bomb dropped,
Yeah.
and we went home.
Yeah.
Instead of going with the same ship that was having 3,000 men to go to Japan, we had ended up with about 5,000 guys crammed in, and we went home.
Going home, yeah.
So I thank him for saving the lives of many men, including my own, possibly.
But the kids now don't believe that. They say, you did a terrible thing, for Japan to do that to the people. But it's all ways looking at it.
Yeah, that's right, especially when they were
Yeah.
attacking us.
Yeah.
And the most vivid thing I remember about the war, strange as it may seem, is not the fighting or the flying the planes and all that. I was corresponding with a cousin of mine who was in the army in Italy, fighting in Italy. And we were sending letters back and forth. And one day I get on mail call, they give me a letter, and it has my handwriting. And on the letter, on the envelope, it says deceased.
You?
And
No,
I
his cousin.
sent the letter to him. It was returned to me. He was killed. He was killed being a hero. His platoon was pinned down, and he went ahead.
This is where? What
In Italy,
theater?
in the Apennine Mountains. And he, according to the story, he went ahead to relieve the platoon to get him, to save them from being annihilated, destroyed. And he was killed by mortar fire. So they gave him a Bronze Star, big deal.
Yeah,
I was very close with him. We used to pal out a lot together when we were kids, in the Bronx. And it affected me. In fact, when they were building a World War II monument in Washington, I contributed money to it, and then I also entered his name in the, they have a roll that lists, that has a listing of all the servicemen. In fact, I was there when we went to that meeting that
Oh,
you
yeah,
had. Yeah.
it's an impressive
And
monument.
his name and my name are in that,
People who served.
yeah, people who serve. And,
Did they include everybody, or did you have to
I
make a
don't know
special
how they did it. I have
contribution?
no idea. All I know is that when you do go there, you can punch up, I don't know how they do it, but you can get the names of the people.
Was it chiseled into, I know all the theaters and all the battles are chiseled into the wall.
Right.
But are the names chiseled in the wall?
No,
Or are they on
the name,
computer?
no, it's not like the Vietnam
Vietnam
monument.
is,
It's a little different,
yeah.
yeah. Did you never saw it? Did you ever go there?
I've been to both of them
Yeah.
a couple of times.
Well, Vietnam monument is more impressive, I
It's also,
think.
yeah,
You know,
very
it's very
serious.
heart-rending.
Very serious, very serious.
And to me, that...
It's very
that was
personal. It's
That
very-
was an unnecessary war.
Yeah.
In fact, most wars.
So when you got out of the war, after the war, what did you do?
After the war, I went to college.
Where?
And I went to, I made a mistake, I went to City College. And I was...
City
little-
College graduated many Nobel laureates.
I never
Yeah,
graduated.
well,
Oh,
I ended up
was a
with 2 years
mistake.
of college, and I gave it up. I quit. And
mistake.
that was one of my biggest mistakes in my life, not finishing college. And also, I want to mention the fact that, I don't know if you remember Sam Leakerman, Elaine's husband.
Very well.
He was,
Uncle Sam.
I worked for him in his
It's a
drug company.
pharmaceutical, yeah.
And at one time, he said to me, he of all the people in the family, he gave me advice. He said, I'll pay for you to go to college. So I said, well, how am I going to pay you? He says, you'll work for me. And I didn't follow up on it. I went on my own. I did things myself without any advice from anybody except him.
He was bigger than life, as I recall.
He was what?
Bigger than life.
Yes.
You know
He's
what
a real
happened? I
character.
Yeah.
danced with him at the wedding, and he said to me, you know that song, You'll Dance at My Wedding? He said, you'll never forget me because I'm dancing with you now, and you'll always remember that I danced with you. And he was a wonderful man.
He was upset when the Kleins went out on strike and they didn't take me back. And
I don't know anything about that.
well, it probably it's hidden. It's one of the secrets. But he was I think he made some remarks to one of the brothers.
Probably my father
yeah.
was sort of the boss.
Right.
He was. It was Max M. Klein and Brothers.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That was the name.
What was the name? I forgot the name of the original name.
Statler.
Statler, yeah, right.
But
Yeah.
they got it from Statler, and I don't think they paid very much, but they took over everything.
Yeah. But I also remember that prior to that, when I was a little kid, they would bring me toys of stuff they used to photograph for albums, toys.
They were always doing that.
Yeah, and they brought me. How did you know? They brought you stuff?
Well, stuff was always appearing because
Yeah,
they give them a sample.
Yeah.
And for example, we'd have party hats. They take pictures of party hats or noisemakers, things that, and after they finish taking pictures, they bring them
But the
home.
funny thing
But
is,
they brought me. They gave me a wonderful toy,
What was it?
and it was a boat. A metal boat. It floated in the
You
water.
can wind it up.
Yeah, you wind it up.
I got one of those.
You got, oh, all right. So listen, you don't know what happened to mine.
I don't know. I think I got one.
You
of
don't know what
those.
happened to mine.
What happened to yours?
You know my cousin. You know Monroe, my cousin.
Yeah.
At that time, he took. We lived on Stratford Avenue, and he took me out to a pond where you could, float the boat. And he he wound it up, put it in the water, and that was it. The boat took off. But he didn't put a string on it or anything.
It just kept
took off.
going.
We couldn't get it. It disappeared. That was the end of my toy.
Monroe, I think, also worked.
He worked, definitely worked for your
Then
father.
I don't know what happened, but he walked out after 2 years, I think.
I don't know the story. He had different versions, but if I remember correctly, he wasn't happy with what he was doing there, or wasn't happy the way he was being treated. But that's as far as I can.
Yeah, he was probably being treated as an employee rather than a partner.
Yeah.
'Cause
Probably, I don't know.
My uncles were partners, and my father was a major partner, it was like.
Right. Oh, they had different titles or
They had,
different,
well, it was split up like, I forget what it was.
I think they had to put money into it
It
or
was
something?
40, something like 40, 30, 30.
Oh, that was the division, yeah.
And my father, it was Max M. Klein and Brothers.
And your mother was very active
My
in it,
mother
you know,
was
as a
running,
bookkeeper.
she ran
She
the
ran-
office.
yeah,
And
right.
the did all the bookkeeping.
Yeah, I remember that.
I came to visit with the two girls, I remember, and he said, I had gone once before, and I think Reza cried. He said, I like this one better, she doesn't cry that much.
Yeah, remember visiting your father when he was sick, and he, what did he say about Reza? What did he say about her again?
She cries.
Oh, yeah, right.
She
yeah,
acted
right.
just like a baby, you know. I always say that to people, you know, children act just like children, you know.
I think at that time we asked Reza to show Uncle Max how she crawled. She used to crawl, but she crawled
She put out
like
her
a
hand.
frog. She jumped, you
She
know,
would go here
and
then
it wasn't the ordinary
follow her back.
crawl. So he wasn't very
She
impressed.
still moves funny, doesn't she? She moves funny now.
Yeah, she
I'll
right.
tell you one thing, she's very bossy.
She's bossy.
wonderful.
Oh, I noticed that.
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
She gets,
But she
Oh.
told you what to do tonight. She gave you your walking, your marching
So
orders.
what time do we have to
Well-
go?
Let's go anytime you want.
Well, no, I don't remember
I'm not
that.
finished with the
She-
interview yet.
you
I have
talk-
to
you-
get, after the war,
I'm just,
and you went 2 years to college.
Right.
And
I
then,
hear thunder, so I'm a little concerned.
that's okay. We have an umbrella.
I'm trying to think exactly the.
When did you, how long before you got, because you had a
Well,
stroke?
listen, I came out of the army. I went to college under the GI Bill, and then when I
When
left,
did Edith find you?
how did she find me? Oh, that's a very strange story.
Wedding.
I don't know. Turn that thing off. Well, she. Let me think. Oh,
The
my
wedding.
father's, my stepmother's family used to have family meetings, and we all
And we
attended.
went to the wedding.
No, wait, I didn't get to that. I'm going back
Okay.
prior to the wedding. And we were like part of it. We were accepted in the family because of my mother, and we brought the children down. Our children did the family meetings, and we sort of were adopted into the family.
You mean-
My mother's family.
To your mother's family?
My mother's
Your
family.
stepmother.
Yeah, my stepmother, right.
Stepmother, yeah.
Yeah, and her brother had a daughter who was getting married, and we were invited because we were part of the
Not
family.
me.
No, what? What do you mean?
I was not invited then. I was invited because my father knew the father of the,
No, yeah, well, that was you were. What do you mean you weren't invited? How'd you come to the wedding?
not because of you.
No, it had nothing to do with me. I'm not trying to say that. That the wedding, she was invited to the same wedding by the
Yes.
fact that her father was very friendly with it's hard to explain, very friendly with my stepmother's brother.
Okay.
That's how I got to the
It's
wedding.
very confusing. But
The whole
anyway,
family went
we both were invited to the same wedding.
So it's through
And-
your step family? It was-
Yes, to the wedding of the step family.
Yeah.
And when she came in with a man, and I
Uh-oh.
assumed
My
that
brother.
was
Oh, okay.
that was her boy, you know, a
With the
young
girl,
fella.
with
I
the
assumed,
boyfriend.
yeah, that was her boyfriend. So they sat down, and then one of my stepmother's sisters said, she said to her brother, "Don't sit there. Leave that seat open." And they put me down next to her.
It was a setup.
Yeah, it was a setup. It was a
They
prearranged.
all asked for
Yeah.
pencils.
And
They
then
didn't take us nothing.
one of the distant relatives of my stepmother gave me a pencil and some paper, and I took her name and address, and that's how it started. And I pursued her.
So that was around 48, 47?
47.
Get married.
47.
Yeah.
And then, how'd you support
So
yourself?
you didn't know him after the war?
Well,
You didn't know him during the war?
It started out
Yeah.
very strangely. I'm trying to remember. My father got me a job working for a deli, and I never strayed from the food business. I was always in it. And then from then on, we bought my father-in-law loaned us money, and we bought, is that the right way? We bought a sandwich shop, and in partnership with one of my stepmother's nephews.
So you had two owners,
Two of us in this partnership.
two families.
Yeah.
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 And we were partners in this store, and we.
It was like a little deli,
Pardon me?
a deli, a small deli.
Yeah, a sandwich shop opposite City College.
Ah, that's.
Yeah, it was
that's
very a very active place. It was in fact, a lot of the basketball players of City College are well known in those days. Used to come into the store to eat. Well, we stayed in that store for a few years, and then it became, for some reason, the business. Well, I forgot what happened. It went down. It wasn't enough for two.
Yeah.
So we decided to sell, and we sold. We sold the store, and I'm trying to remember what happened after that.
After that, you bought a business.
Oh yeah, after that, we went. I went down to a broker that would set up businesses. You know, see, and I met.
He danced for her and played both of them, and she said it was a wonderful time in her life. So then we bought a house.
Well,
First we moved an apartment.
I lost the tape here for a minute, so let me go, have to go back.
You mean I have to repeat all this stuff again?
Only the part
back.
What part?
after,
What do you want to go back?
so
to?
you were buying, you sold the first sandwich shop.
All right. After that, to make a long story short, I was set up. It was like a marriage sort of with someone else who had experience in the grocery business, and we bought a business in the Bronx, and it was they used to call that store a must store because it was the only store around, and at that time there were very few supermarkets. In fact, there was only one supermarket around, I think.
So it was like a 7-Eleven.
What?
It was like.
No. This is a regular grocery
You know,
store.
a bit,
Yeah.
good size.
We used to have.
Stockings.
It was a Jewish neighborhood, and we had a lot of business. And in fact, on Passover, we used to have 100. We used to have 150, 200 orders to deliver. So we had people working for us. And but what happened? The neighborhood changed. What's that place that opened up in the Bronx? That big development.
Park.
Cities. I forget the name of
City
it.
Park City or Park something?
Yes, something, that's the
Is
one.
this where,
That's the one.
Well, anyway, this place opened up, and people were living in these houses, which weren't very new. They were pretty old. They were probably from World War I, you know, that period. And they started to move, and the Jewish customers moved out, and and even I had Gentile customers. They started to move, and what happened? The neighborhood became predominantly, you know, Spanish and black, and eventually there wasn't enough business for two, so I bought him out, and I was there by myself for about. Well, we were there actually both together and by myself for about 17 years. And then eventually, the business went down so drastically that I sold it to a Puerto Rican or whatever you want to call them, and that was the end of my business, working in my own business. And then
that was in the middle of the 60s.
yes, then I got a job with managing. It took me a while to get a job. I was out for about 6 months because whenever I went for an interview, they always said I was overqualified. I don't know, you know, and I was in my 40s.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah. So I got a job with EJ Corvette.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that, am I in the right?
Yeah.
You know, constantly.
Right, honey,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I got a job with EJ Corvette managing their drug department.
This is the middle
And
sixties.
this is in Brooklyn. I don't know if you're familiar with that place.
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
off
no,
86th
Corvettes we
Street,
know, yeah.
Bay Parkway.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey,
And you
Corvette
had-
was
how many
a
children did you have at that time? You had 2 or 3?
Two,
2.
2.
No, didn't we have 3 at the time?
not maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure we had 3.
But three.
Oh, there's the thunder. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, I didn't like what I was doing. And I saw an ad in the paper about a sales position opening with Borden Milk Company. And I sent in a resume, and they called me back. And they said, well, we received your resume and we'll let you know, or something like that. And I kept calling. And I was fortunate enough that in my department, the drug department, the pharmacy had a telephone. So the pharmacist was very nice and understanding and let me use the phone. And I kept calling this company, Borden, their employment aid, where they had their office on Hudson Street in New York. And they asked me to come down for an interview. And the man the man I spoke to on the phone said to me, he says, the reason I asked you to come down is because you were so persistent in calling and pursuing the job, the position. And well, again, to make the long story short, I got the job with the Borden Milk Company. And about 2 years afterward, or a year afterward, the Borden Milk Company decided to close down their milk operation in New York. And they sent us nice letters telling us goodbye. And,
So you're on the street again.
pardon me?
You're on the street.
Yeah, I was out of work again. But strangely enough,
Well, Edith, at this time, you were happy, huh?
I was raising my family.
oh, we were on the verge of divorce.
No, we had 3 kids.
Yeah.
And it was going well, and everything was fine. And I was going to school at night, and I used to take the bus, even though a lot of men would stop for me. But I said if I went and got a ride, they would accuse me that so I didn't. So this man, he said, I'll take you halfway, then you weren't afraid. I'll take you halfway home, and then you can walk home. So then he decided that instead of taking the bus, he'd call for me. But it paid off, and I did what I did, and I loved what I did, and I think I really enjoyed my work, and I did very well. I got my 1 degree and another degree.
What school was
and
this? What school?
Queens College.
What?
Queens College.
Wayne.
When?
Yeah, no, yeah, what college?
She went to Queens
In
College.
Queens College.
Queens College, yeah.
Queens,
Oh, I got a good education.
yeah.
And I got my master's there, and I got my 30 credits above it, and I went to work,
As that was towards the end of the sixties then.
yeah, and then the weekends, I took courses, you had to keep going. But I love what I did all the time.
Yeah. So then after that, Borden, how'd you get a job? If they put you on the street?
got a good
But
job.
coincidentally, there was a tailor about a block down from where we lived in Queens, and I brought my stuff. I had my stuff cleaned there, and one time I mentioned that I worked for Borden's and I was looking for a job. He says, I have a customer who works for Borden's. He says, for Borden's Food, there was a different division. So he said, he says, I'll talk to him. So he introduced me to this fellow, and this fellow said, he said, they're looking for a salesman in the food division. And he gave me the name of the person. I called them, and I went down for an interview, and based on the fact that I worked for the milk company, I got the job.
Oh, that's
It's a
great.
good
Yeah.
job.
So, and it was a very good job, and I was with them, and then I'd say about 5 years after with them, I was moved into the food service division with promotion that I covered all of metropolitan New York, going out, visiting distributors and so forth, selling cheese. And to make a long story short, I kept going. I was in the food line. I worked for a broker, and then the broker, the Borden Food Company got rid of their salesman, and they went to a broker. So I was moved from the sales department of the Borden Food into the brokers department, heading up the cheese division. And then eventually I skipped a part. I went to work in between for a cheese company, and the cheese company went over to the broker. Well, anyway, they kept getting rid of their sales force, and they assumed, or they figured out that it was cheaper to be represented by a broker. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with a broker. A broker has a sales force, and they go out with a book with maybe 10 or 11 companies representing, and they have to sell merchandise, and it's difficult to speak to somebody and corner somebody, a buyer, with all your items, so you zero in on the items that give you the most volume. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, I'm trying to remember, I didn't like the brokerage job.
Got a nice job then.
And then I was looking for a job on the side, and I ended up working for someone who had been my customer when I was with Borden Foods. And he had, it's a very small company, I think he had 2 trucks, and he was only selling butter and eggs. And I would go out representing him, and and I'd walk into cold turkey, calling on stores.
Cold call.
Yeah, and it appeared to me that I was walking in with nothing, just with 2 items or 3 items. So I went back, when I went into him, I told him, look, why don't you take in some more items so we can have something to sell? So he sort of let it go, he sort of let me have my way. And I built the business up, and I became a buyer inside. And he bought 3 or 4 more trucks, and we increased the stock, his product line. I increased the product line to maybe 30 or 40 different items.
So he should have been very appreciative.
He was, to an extent, because
Not appreciative.
I had to
enough.
ask for more money, most of the time. The raises weren't voluntary.
Yeah.
But I ended up I was very happy. It was a very good job.
Was that the last job you had?
That was the last position I had before I retired. And then he made a nice party for my retirement. And
So-
then he did something which I advised him not to do. He decided he was going to move from this location where he was, and that was right off Queens Boulevard, and he was going to take in milk as an item, product line, besides his other stuff that I had brought in. I said, don't go into the milk business. I said, it's a whorish business. I was in it. I started
Too
it.
much competition.
Yeah, it's competition, and it's very complicated, and your drivers, every driver of a truck only had to sell milk, but here he had his drivers, they had to deliver other items besides milk, and it was very complicated, and don't go into it. So he didn't listen to me. He moved, he sold his place, he moved to another place, a bigger place, and eventually he went out of business.
When did you come down here?
21 years ago.
91.
91, yeah, about 21 years, something like that.
I was-
That time I had retired already.
And
I
you-
retired then.
Both you retired. You just
Yeah,
wanted to-
I retired
You
from
want
that
to be with
position.
your girl.
Decided to come together.
Yeah, we were friendly at the time.
Yeah. So it's worked out.
How smart
Between
he
you
was.
two.
Yeah, we had a non-aggression treatment,
For 3
agreement.
months, we stayed in another place, until
you
we
found
got,
something?
and this woman that I say is so nice to us, she stopped the car one day. We came in to look for a house, and she said, someone is moving out of a house, and she couldn't sell it, so maybe you should walk in there. So we got someone to go in, and we bought that, and she's been a wonderful neighbor.
So you've been in the same house for 20 years.
Yeah.
This house for 20 years.
Right, as long as we've been here, we've been in this house. Well, maybe 6 months. We were here we were in Richmond 6 months in a development, an apartment development,
Yeah.
We had to find the
Just-
house.
We had to find a house, so,
So we had 3 kids, God bless them. They
Yeah.
all got married in that house. It's lucky,
so we decided to come here because our family was here.
That's a good idea.
Very good.
That was smart.
I keep saying, I told you, we'd be dead if we were in New York.
Yeah.
We couldn't have managed.
We couldn't cope with what we have, what's going on now.
Yeah. So what about your grandchildren? You want to go down from the oldest
You
one?
really wanna go?
No, but you only have a minute
David,
for
it's almost
a
You know,
minute.
if you don't mind, can we cut it short because I'm getting tired?
Okay, so make these,
And if I wanna go out with you guys, I need my energy.
Right.
okay,
And she needs her, well, she's not talking as much.
okay, you can relax
All
now,
right.
okay?
Yeah.
No more talking for you
All right.
until I give you
And
permission.
is there a problem, it's 6:30, go into this restaurant, will we be too crowded, or?
No,
It's
Sunday, Saturday.
Saturday's not a
One,
problem?
okay, one
What
by
is that to
one.
what?
1 minute for each
Your problem on
grandchild.
Saturday. Go
So
to the
we-
No, I
restaurant.
don't get because she's
Over
talking.
here,
Lisa
quiet.
has 2 children.
Yeah,
And they're 2 wonderful people.
yeah.
And they have, one is married and has 2 children. So she has 2 she has 2 grandchildren.
That's good.
And I look at her and I say, how could
Little
I
baby?
have grandchildren? You know, all of a sudden you have grandchildren, they're wonderful, wonderful, and a riot. They're so funny. The little one says, you know, Grandma, I wear underpants and they have stars on it. It's very pretty, and I don't think yours are very nice. So wait a minute, she says, you know what you should do? She says, when there's a sale, why don't you go to the store and get yourself no underpants? So they give you, you know, it makes life so pleasant.
Of course, of
And the
course.
boy is a very nice, he's getting married, that's the one. So that's them. Then there's Julia, who has 2 lovely children, one who's gonna be, is a lawyer now. Not yet, she didn't take the
Well,
exam.
close, she'll be like.
Close, and she worked for it, and she knew what she wanted. And the other one has a wonderful job, and I can't figure out what he does, but the man in charge says, keep the seat warm, because one day you'll be here. He does a job. What does he do? Kevin,
Oh, he is sort of a product manager for, what was the name of the company again? The very famous company in New
Yeah.
York. I used to deliver hats to them.
yeah, when
when
he
I
was
was
a kid.
before high school.
And he,
What-
they took
Helen,
him to
name a
Europe.
famous dress house or clothing place in New York. Not like, something like Burdup Goodman or
One of
Lord
them,
and Taylor.
one of
No, no,
them. So
All
they
right, well,
took
anyway, he
him-
works in a very big company.
They took him to Europe, and they showed him from the beginning what happened to this material and how you do it, and he does it. And he was very good with.
He coordinates production,
Good.
you know, from the
He does it
manufacturer to the
beautifully.
retail
Yeah,
part.
yeah,
And the funny thing is, when he was a kid, computer, they sent for him when he was a little boy, and he started working for the state. He was very young, and they called for him to come to work to the state. And this little boy would come in, and he'd work.
Good.
So he's a doll.
And your son?
And my son is a doll, he's a lawyer, but he likes what he's doing. That tells you what he does.
Right, this GPS.
He's married to a nice
GIS.
girl.
Yeah, it's
He
good.
met her in 3rd grade, and they finally got married, and they're happy, and they have 2 wonderful children.
So you have, how many grandkids?
6.
6. You're 1 ahead of us.
So we were very fortunate, they're lovely, they love each other. And now she's going to school. I mean, what is she doing now this summer? One of them,
Oh, you mean Beryl?
yeah.
She got a job as an intern. I don't know what company.
She knows one, she fell in love with one teacher, no, one writer, and she was very friendly with the son.
Oh,
And
yeah, she got a job with the Simon and Schuster.
Ah, that's a good job.
And
she's not getting
in
paid.
fact, when she submitted her resume,
They thought she
they
was,
thought she was looking for full-time employment. So they asked her to come down for an interview. And then she said, I'm not interested, I just want something for the summer. So they gave her a job as an intern. Her resume was so
Well, it's a
impressive.
good experience, and she makes good contacts.
two girls.
May I interrupt this
Yes.
proceeding? And I'd
Yeah.
like to make a suggestion, if you
No,
don't
I'm
mind.
gonna end, my battery's going dead.
Oh, good. My battery's running down also.
My battery's going dead, so I'm gonna
Let-
close it
Let me
up.
suggest something, please. May I? I would like to have you stay here and have supper with us. And I'll tell you, if you're receptive to what I want to make, let me know and don't be bashful.
Go
Okay.
on.
I want to make an egg salad, tuna salad, and coffee and cake. How does that
That's
sound?
fine.
Is that satisfactory?
That's
And I don't
fine.
want to go out in the rain and all the thunder and schlep.
We
It's
have
easier.
enough.
It's easier if I work in the kitchen. So talk to my wife for a while, and I'll go inside and
They
prepare.
don't even have to
So,
talk.
so let me help you.
No, no.
He loves it.
Let me do it. I'll do it my way. All right? If you don't mind.